like that, I think you will be never able to learn. All right. So we continue this total internal reflection today, right? So this is the interface we are just thinking, and then you have the, this is the normal we sketch here, and this is N1 and this is N2. Okay, so for total internal reflection condition, so if you just see something like this is a straight line, of course you should. So this is your Ki propagation direction. We are considering something like that theta I, and then you have theta R Kr, and we are seeing that this is the case for TIR, total internal reflection. So to happen the total internal reflection, you need the condition N1 greater than N2. And from Snell's law, or normal reflection law, always you know theta I should be equal to theta R. And to appreciate completely the total internal reflection, we say that it's better to consider something like the Fixius reflected wave, because we could not explain our what do you call that, the penetration phase upon total internal reflection. Just consider that, okay, there is a imaginary theta t and imaginary kt exist. Okay, and with this, at least we know in principle theta I must be greater than theta c. That is the critical angle, right? And we also say this is your, say, z axis we are assuming, and this is your x, and y is actually perpendicular to the screen. Okay, we have to write, even though it is a complex, we have to say that this vector quantity. So I am writing one expression, you have to tell me whether that is correct or not. Ki, I take Ki means when I am not writing vector means it is a mode of that one. Ki sin theta I should be equal to Kt sin theta t should be equal to Kr sin theta r. Do you agree if I write like that? Where Ki means, we are writing Ki means 2 pi by lambda n1, Kr equal to 2 pi by lambda n2, Kt equal to 2 pi by lambda, sorry, this is not n2, Kr, whenever I am writing, that should be in the first medium, so that should be equal to 1, this should be 2. So is this acceptable? Is this okay? What it is actually? Ki sin theta, if Ki is this vector, Ki sin theta means what? Basically that is nothing but Ki z. Is that correct? Are you okay with me, Anil?
Uh, yes, yes.
Meaning z component of the Ki. If I just decompose x component and z component, so z component of the Ki, this is z direction.
Yes, sir.
That is Kij equal to Ki sine theta I. Correct, right? And this
Yes.
one will be Kt K
Z component.
T z component again, theta t. And this is again Kr z component.
Z component.
So that means I have, if I consider three waves, incident wave, reflected wave, and your transmitted wave. And I know their wave vectors. I have defined the wave vector here. Okay, this is our wave vector we have defined. Wave vectors in three different cases, their mode. Then these things basically the tangential component of the wave vectors for three waves: incident, reflected, and transmitted. Actually, from the Maxwell's equation, if you are using your boundary condition, so when you are using your boundary condition to prove, to derive Fresnel's law, to prove Snell's law, you actually use this thing also. For, if you are using just Fresnel's law, but just boundary condition, you are using. And to prove Snell's law, you need to consider this tangential component. Tangential component, it can be shown that tangential components at any interface, they are equal. That is another boundary condition. We know that electric field tangential component is continuous. Normal component of displacement vector is continuous. If there is no charge, then continuous. But from those things, using Carl equation and boundary condition, etc., we can also show that tangential component of the wave vector remains constant at any boundary. At any interface, this can be shown from, again, from the boundary condition. And from here, actually, you prove Snell's law. Because you see, Snell's law means if you are just putting here 2 pi by lambda n1 sine theta, kr equal to kt equal to 2 pi by lambda n2. You just put 2 pi by n2. That means n1 sine theta I equal to n2 sine theta t. So it is basically first two equation actually is nothing but your Snell's law. That comes from your boundary equation. And these two, if you just consider, that is actually law of reflection. That means sine theta t equal to, sorry, not these two. Sorry. So I think the first and last. If you are just considering this one and this one, if you compare, this one and this one, if you compare, that is law of reflection. And these two, first two, if you compare, that is Snell's law. Okay. So this is another way you should always keep in mind. The Snell's law is derived because of the fact that the tangential component of the wave vectors are equal. Only thing is that the normal component of the wave vector changes. That's why their direction changed. Okay, direction or velocity, they changed because their normal component undergoes some difference. Normal component is associated with the dielectric constant or refractive index. So this thing is clear, right? Now let us move to the next thing. Oops. Right. So let me just consider the case of other thing. We just consider k t cosine theta t. What is that? Kt cosine theta t is basically k tz component, right? That means in the previous figure, if you just see here,
Sir, it's ATX, right?
sorry,
KT.
tx, right? So this is basically all this. These are actually tangential component, and this one we are considering it is x, right? I'm sorry. So this should be x. Okay, that means your vertical direction, what is the component? So if we just do a little bit here, by the fact that you have your earlier n1 sine theta I, that means Snell's law says that n2 sine theta t. So I can write this ktx equal to kt cos theta t, that means kt square root of 1 minus sine square theta t, right? So this actually eventually gives you that kt times 1 minus n1 by n2 square sine square theta I, right? So I can write eventually kt, that means I am just trying to get if there is a transmitted wave exist in the second medium, and in that case ktz will be present. Earlier that ktz, here we have already mentioned that ktz will be there because it is continuous. Tangential components are continuous. But what happens to normal component ktx? So ktx I am just writing equal to kt means 2 pi divided by lambda times n2, that is actually kt. That means wave vector in the second medium. And what about this one? I just keep on writing 1 minus n1 by n2 square sine square theta I. Okay. Now check this one a bit. What about this one? I should not forget that in case of total internal reflection, theta I greater than theta c. It has to be greater than critical angle, then only you can say that your theta t can be complex. Right? Sin theta t, that Fixier's condition comes. Total internal reflection actually holds. So this thing again, in the same argument what we did for our total internal reflection case. So this part must be, if this is the case, theta I greater than theta c, if this fact is accepted, that means the second part is higher than 1. So that means this one is imaginary. So we can write this one as j times 2 pi by lambda n2, right? Is a positive number. I am just writing n1 by n2 square sine square theta I minus 1. Okay. So this is what we get, ktx. That means it is a imaginary, right? So because this is greater than 1. So basically I should write plus minus because square root is there. From the beginning itself I can just write plus minus. I think that is better. I can accept which is actually feasible. Plus or minus, which is actually practically feasible, that I will be accepting. So that means this ktx, that means wave vector moving along x direction. If I just try to write that anything transmitted wave actually moving along x direction, if it is at all there, we can write that as some kind of et0, if at all present, et0 e to the power j omega t minus e to the power minus j ktz z plus ktx x. That means I am just trying to write e to the power k minus k j k dot r. Right? Now k has two components. K will have ax in a ax, sorry, ax ktx plus az It is in the xz plane, right? KTZ. So r equal to, that means it is in the r also, it is in the xz plane. So you can have KTZ z times and KTX x time. That is a phase factor, position dependent phase factor, and time dependent phase factor we are considering. Right? Now we have the expression for KTX. KTX, if I write here, KTX equal to plus minus 2 pi by lambda n2, of course, j square root of some positive value n1 n2 square sine square theta I minus 1. Okay. Now you see KTZ is a real value. Already I have shown earlier. So that means this minus j KTZ real number and z. So that is actually oscillatory things. We can get always ET0 vector sign I can put here. Whatever the polarization, accordingly I have to put. So I can write e to the power j omega t minus KTZ z. So along z direction, it will be like a traveling wave. But you will see x dependencies like this expression. So because KTX is plus minus, let us consider that this is actually plus minus something we consider as a alpha. Okay, say plus minus j alpha. Alpha is a positive number, for example. Then we can write plus minus alpha x. Okay, this KTX, I'm just writing alpha x plus minus alpha x. Alpha equal to, we can easily write 2 pi by lambda n2, that's a positive number, n1 square n2 square sine square theta I minus 1. Oops. What happened? Okay. Yeah. So minus 1. So normally, if you see along z direction, it has a oscillatory function, time dependent as well as this one. And along x direction, if I see this, that means this ET, it has a function of x, function of z, function of t. So when I see that z along z direction can be considered something ET0, just magnitude or something like that. Along z direction, it will be oscillating like a normal traveling wave. But along x direction, either it can be plus or minus. Normally plus cannot happen. Plus means it is exponentially, it will be growing. That is never possible. Either it can be oscillatory or decaying. So we have to take the plus sign so that you get a minus here. So that means I get E2 ET0 e to the power j omega t minus KTZ z e to the power minus alpha x. That means along x direction, it is attenuating exponentially. Okay. So if I just try to see that what is that value, that if alpha is the constant, decay constant, you can say along x direction. So I define penetration depth, the depth where the field strength along x direction comes down to 1 by E. So that is nothing but 1 by alpha. That is actually the penetration depth. Penetration depth. So penetration depth equal to delta equal to 1 over alpha. Right? So that is actually alpha expression I know. That means alpha by 2 pi n2. Right? 2 pi n2 and square root of n1 n2 square sine square theta I minus 1. Okay. So this is the distance, the field strength will go down to 1 by E. So that is called, somehow it is called field. When total internal reflection takes place, there will be field existing in the second media, but as a function of x vertical direction, that will be decaying exponentially, and that that will call this the decay constant, or this particular field, when field existing along x direction, it is decaying in nature, that we call typically, it is called as a evanescent field. Evanescent field. That means the field is decaying. So it is very much well known in integrated optics. It's called evanescent field. Evanescent field is not like a traveling wave type things. It is a decaying traveling wave. So attenuating wave field strength. Any direction, if it is attenuating, if you see, normally that is either because of the total internal reflection, or if there is a metal. So normally, you know, any electromagnetic wave will be decaying exponentially if second media is the metal. That is one condition. Or if it is happening for the total internal reflection. So total internal reflection, total it is being reflected. Now you see, now in microwave waveguide concept, you know, we use a metal enclosure, rectangular box, right, for a microwave waveguide. So metal we use because in the metal, in the boundary, because of the field strength inside the metal, it has to be 0. So that transverse direction, any wave is propagating, that will be reflecting back, and that will be some way it will be confined within the waveguide, and you can get a waveguide mode. So now optical frequency, if you just try to use that, also I have just a quick question here. Suppose you have a kind of metal, okay, you have some metal is there, metal plate is there, okay, another metal plate is there, okay. We know that any electromagnetic wave, if it is in the metal plate, if it is going, if it is coming like this, field strength like this, any angle if it is coming, it will be reflecting back. But normally, you know, there will be some kind of penetration depth you will be seeing in the metal, inside the metal. This is a metal block, right? Penetration, that is called skin depth. So that field will be decaying in nature. And here also, if it is instead of metal, if it is a some kind of second media with dielectric constant, and the angle is something greater than your critical angle, then that also will be reflecting, and there also you can see that field will be decaying in nature. Slowly, slowly it will be decaying. Okay, that is called actually evanescent field, whatever I discussed in the previous evanescent field. So that means I am just using total internal reflection for our light to be reflected without any loss. So if you have another metal, another dielectric, for example, this is N1, this is N2. If you have another N2 material here, when it is coming back here and hitting here, the same thing, if it is actually total internal reflection taking place here for a certain angle, that means definitely if that is also N2, here also it will be having some total internal reflection. So when it is going that will go again total internal reflection. So like this. So that is how we can think of that light wave can be confined between, in a layer sandwiched between two material medium which is having lower refractive index. N2, if N1 greater than N2, then light can be, electromagnetic wave or light wave can be actually confined in that direction. It will not escape this direction. Energy will not be escaped this direction, not this direction. But it can actually travel this direction because of the existence of KTZ. Propagation vector KTZ we have discussed. So that will be going. So in this way, we can at least ensure that total internal reflection can confine in one dimension, light can be directed along the Z direction. Total internal. So my question is that normally any optical waveguide we consider that okay, there is a core, there is a cladding, core having higher refractive index, cladding has lower refractive index. But if we use metal like a microwave waveguide, here also metal, okay, metal also, if you just see, you have seen in a normal mirror, this metallic coating is there, that's why light can be reflected, right? So it can be reflected also, right? So it can be an optical waveguide as well, right? But no one talks about optical waveguide using metal. Microwave waveguide we think of, but why not optical waveguide? It is also can reflect, and it is also penetration depth is there, skin depth is there, it will be reflected and you will get that one. Now my question is that, is it okay that if you design like that and guide your light and you can design your waveguide, and if it is possible, yes, if you say so, then why we don't see optical waveguide for optical energy, optical frequency? People never use practically this thing. What is the reason?
Sir, while we are designing that, here we calculate the electric field for transmission wave. Now the x part, x come e to the power something x, alpha x, that is coming totally real part. That is alpha is totally real quantity when we are using dielectric. But in metal, it is a complex quantity. That means it have a real part as well as imaginary part. So some oscillating function decaying with along the direction of x. So there will be there in metal the loss is significant. But if I use dielectric, in such case there is only real part, there is no imaginary part. So there is a
okay. So you mean that metal case you have a dielectric constant or refractive index, it has a real part as well as imaginary part. That means your N2 have N2, this is N2, right? N2 has a real part and imaginary part. That is what you mean to say?
Yes sir, yes sir. Sigma not equal to 0.
That is actually, you can get some kind of alpha plus J beta, something like this is there. Okay. So you mean to say that real part, if it is there, then what happens if it is real part is there, but still you have a imaginary part is there? That means you will have a kind of damping oscillation, right? So you will be getting something like this.
Yes sir, yes sir. In metal.
In metal.
Yes.
So
yes.
what is the problem? Still, it is damping, but energy is not flowing after certain distance. It will be just decayed completely.
Sir, because of the tangential electric field component, there may be a generation of current density in that direction.
Actually, current density you want in a microwave waveguide also, you have current density generates there. Is not it in a metal?
Yes, sir.
Sir, when this is oscillating, if I take the average thing, that should be larger than if it's the evanescent wave.
I think it's a very wrong way of explanation. Metal, if it is okay for microwave, what is the microwave also? It has a real part, imaginary part, it can happen. If we use it for microwave, why not in optical wave? Just think a little bit differently. Microwave also similar situation you can think of, no? But there you afford.
Sir, optical wave has a very high frequency.
So
if we use metal, then the losses, like as we go on, the losses become increasing. Like the losses increase, and so we don't use metal.
So microwave also you will have some kind of loss. If you see microwave waveguide, you have
decreases with high frequency, right? The skin effect will decrease with higher frequency.
As a frequency is higher, so lower frequency losses will be lower, you mean to say?
Yes.
That is one thing. Other than that, the major thing you are not catching. Normally, you know, if you want to confine in a microwave waveguide, normally microwave, if you see the wavelength is in the centimeter, millimeter range, right? So microwave waveguide, normally the dimension of this distance between two metal plates, that should be in the millimeter range, right? And suppose you want to guide a microwave waveguide, say up to 1 meter or something like that. Normally microwave waveguide, typically it is length is in the order of meters. So if you transmit microwave waveguide for several meters, and your wavelength is in the millimeter order, centimeter order, so you can count how many reflection is taking place. Maybe if it is 1 meter, maybe 100. So 100 reflection will take place. Each reflection contributes to loss, but you have to add 100 reflection means 100 times the reflection. This is a very qualitative way of explanation. You can estimate if you use normal electromagnetic theory, but just qualitative way of understanding that why we don't use metal for optical frequencies. So that 100 times reflection does not matter. But in case of optical frequency, the lambda is much smaller, in the order of micrometer, nanometer scale, right? So in that case, if you want to, even if you want to want a waveguide of length, say 1 centimeter, not 1 meter, even 1 centimeter, you can calculate how many times it will be reflecting, and this thickness will be in the order of, say, 1 micrometer, for example. So if this separation is 1 micrometer, you just consider at any angle, so certain angles are 45 degree angle. 45 degree angle, then you can count if because you need your waveguide dimension should be in the order of the lambda. So lambda smaller means the dimension will be smaller. So if that is the smaller, and if you try to count how many number of reflection needed for optical frequency, you can say, instead of say 100, you can say that 1 million times reflection can happen. And each reflection contributes to loss. Multiplied by 1 million, instead of 100, you are just considering 1 million, even more. If you can just do little maths and try to calculate how many times of reflection needed. Each reflection contributes to loss, and you will end up something like that. If you are using metal, in 1 centimeter length, you will be ending up maybe 1000 dB loss. 1000 dB loss, you can imagine. You will not get anything out of it. Okay, so that is the one major reason that metal, if you are using, that is actually, it will be highly lossy because of number of reflection more, and that is what you said, Yajid, you said that frequency higher means loss will be higher. That mainly because of this one thing, the dimension. And another thing is that when your dimension is becoming smaller and metal you are using, and then that dimension to hold 1 micrometer distance, and in between you have to have some kind of dielectric, and that is a huge task, lot of losses, and waveguide is not really economic. So that is the reason when we talk about optical frequency, light wave, so we don't go for this metal waveguide. Instead, we go for this total internal reflection principle. Okay, so total internal reflection principle is the major thing for guidance. So now next question. Okay, suppose I have the this type of situation is there. Okay, let me consider like this. Clean up this thing. So I have the kind of this type of situation I can create where I have a core region. I'm just considering one-dimensional confinement for the moment. N2 and maybe this is N2 and this is maybe N3. And such that N1 greater than N2 can be equal to N3 or maybe not equal to N3. N2 can be not equal to N3. So you can have this type of things. And you can try for a certain angle so that here also total internal reflection takes place, total it can come back, and here also it will be total internal reflection takes place. So TIR, here also TIR, here also TIR. Okay, so if your angle, this theta I somehow you set correctly, that in this interface, N1 and N3 interface having total internal reflection, and N1, N2 interface also having total internal reflection. Is that the only condition you want for guidance, or anything else you need to consider? This is, I have quickly actually, while talking to you, discussing all this, I have already entered into the discussion of designing 1D optical waveguide. One-dimensional optical waveguide. So this is one example I have given here, that total internal reflection, if you just maintain N1 greater than N2, that is a symmetric type of 1D waveguide, and this is called asymmetric waveguide. Meaning upper cladding and lower cladding, their refractive index is not same. That is what asymmetric. Now my question is that, suppose you know that critical angle is, in this interface, critical angle will be how much? Upper critical angle CUI. Let me write theta CU. Critical angle upper. What would be the value? Sine inverse. How much? N3 by N1, correct?
Yes,
and
sir.
this would be theta critical angle lower would be equal to sine inverse N2 by N1, right? Suppose I have the condition that N1 greater than N2 greater than N3. One particular condition I am just considering. Just quick question. Can you tell me which one will be higher? This one, theta CL or theta CU? Anyone can tell? N1 greater than N2 greater than N3. Now I am asking critical angle theta CU and theta CL. U stand for upper cladding critical angle and L stands for lower cladding critical angle.
Upper will be higher.
Upper will be higher because, okay.
No, sir. Lower will be higher because lower is into lower is larger.
Lower is?
Lower is larger. N2 is
yes,
larger.
N2 is larger, so this value will be higher. So that means I can comfortably say that theta CL is greater than theta CU, right? So if this theta I is greater than theta CL, then you are satisfying total internal reflection in the upper interface as well as lower interface. Is that correct? If you set this angle theta I, this angle also will be theta I, right? If theta I greater than theta CL, is that correct? If theta I greater than theta CL, then what happened?
Yes, sir. Both
Total
sides.
internal reflection takes place here. And if it is greater than theta CL, that means it is obviously greater than theta CU. Is not it? So that means if I set an angle theta I, right, such that I can get total internal reflection here and total internal reflection here. Now my quick question, suppose I have a theta I which is greater than equal to theta CL. Again, I just write down theta CL is greater than theta CU. I have angle there. Somehow I have signed a light with angle theta I is greater than equal to theta CL. Suppose this theta I, if I just put greater than equal to theta CL and less than equal to pi by 2. If I set angle theta I between theta C to theta pi by 2, somewhere, any value I can choose. Theta CL, right? Yeah. It is just equal or greater than theta CL or less than pi by 2. Then in between, all the angle you choose, it will undergo total internal reflection in the upper interface as well as lower interface. You understand what would be my next question? Next question is that, is all these angle will support or help light to be guided by that system, or something else you have to consider? Suppose theta CL I get, say for example, 30° consider, and this is actually 90°. Pi by 2 means 90°. So I consider 31, 35, 45, 60, all these angle I consider. Any arbitrary angle I consider. And that ensures total internal reflection in both the interface, right? So that means all these angles will help that light to be guided through the system. You have to tell me yes or no.
No, sir.
Anyone else? If you are saying no, I will be asking why no. If you are saying yes, I will be asking why yes.
No.
The only case where it doesn't work is 90 degrees. Like theta equal to 90 degrees.
Okay, forget 90 degree. Less than that, 89.
And it works.
So that means you can say 31 to 89, for example, or 89.9, 99999, something like that. And 30.000001 to 89.99999. So any angle you consider in between, that can guide the light, right?
No, sir.
Bishop saying no.
Sir, because we are studying a bounded system where my variable is theta I. So when we are studying bounded system and theta I cannot be continuous, it should have some discrete values.
Why?
Due to some boundary condition or is coming. That's why.
No. I think you are just because I think you learned somewhere. That's why you are trying to answer. But I need to the point answer. You may be correct, but you have to give a better explanation.
Due to constructive interference and destructive interference.
Where constructive interference, and you see you will be having two boundary,
Okay.
and you have going there and coming there and going there, coming there, it will be there. So I have satisfied total internal reflection. What is the problem? Light goes like this, that side it goes, hit, come back, this side goes, come back, this side goes, come back. So you can get something, beam goes like this, and then it will be coming like this. Here, if it is a beam, it will be like this, and then it will be going like this. Have you thought like that? So something like that, it will be coming like this. So if it is a beam will go that way, something like that. What will happen? Normally, you know, whenever you, if someone asks you that how optical waveguide work, what is the working principle of optical waveguide? Normally you say that, okay, core refractive index is higher, cladding diffractive index is lower, and at the interface there will be total internal reflection, that's why light guides. Okay, that is actually partially correct. The total internal reflection is a first condition, but you need one more condition for guidance. What is that? No one can help, right? Let us think about this thing. So suppose the beam is little bit broader. right? And it is something like this. So it is a beam like this. What you can expect? You see, a beam is going and then coming back like this. In this region, what you see? In this particular region, you have one incoming beam, and on the top of it, you have reflected beam also. So there are regions where you have incident beam as well as reflected beam. They are overlapping. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
So when they are overlapping, that means after reflection at some places, you can see that incoming beam is there. There can be some situation where the phase of the incoming beam at some points and phase of the reflected beam, that can be pi phase difference. Then what will happen? That particular region, what will you see? Destructive interference, is not it? Suppose you have a light, something, it is a very qualitative way. Light wave is propagating sinusoidal magnitude, right? And then you have another wave somewhere, you see that it is something just exactly pi phase shift. So what would be the value here? This is plus magnitude at any instant of time, and this is minus amplitude. So you can see they will cancel each other. Is not it? So they cancel each other means there will be zero energy. But since it is happening in the vicinity of the interface, you know, when two beam interfere destructively, that means that energy, that destroyed energy appears somewhere else. So since it is in the boundary and it is in the total internal reflection region, it can happen that light energy can appear constructive interference at the outside outputs in the upper cladding. It may not remain confined within the waveguide. So you can expect some kind of leakage. In other words, you can say that suppose a wave originated from here, this side, here, this point it is originated, and if you see another wave originating from here, if they are identical, this point and this point, if they are identical in terms of amplitude as well as phase. So whatever phase it is there at this point, after traveling, traveling distance, it will acquire some phase, and upon total internal reflection, it will acquire some more phase. Again traveling, it will be acquiring some more phase, right? Then again it will reflect. So there will be two reflection and this path. So after this two path reflection, you cannot expect that phase will be identical here, here and here. This point maybe you consider A, sorry. This point consider A and B. When emerging light from A, it has certain amplitude and phase. And emerging from B, it will have certain amplitude and phase. If these two phase, if they are not multiple integer of 2 pi, then problem occurs. So my whole point here is that total internal reflection is not the only condition. You have to look into the phase relationship also. That, you see, when one wave goes here and here some phase acquire, here phase acquire. So total phase acquiring after that, it should be 2 pi times n integer. Then you can say that the source at A and B, you cannot distinguish them. They are identical. If B is A and B identical, next reflection point in the lower boundary is a C. If we just consider C there also it will be identical. So that means it can maintain the consistency. So that consistency required for guidance. Otherwise, after coming here, suppose this is some plane wave going like this, and when it is coming back here and again reflecting back, this wave front here going, you can see this wave front going and this wave front, if they are not consistent, then you will see somehow there will be destructive interference and light will give some kind of energy loss there, and energy, that equivalent energy will appear maybe outside, it will be leaky. So that means we have to think one more condition, that is a phase relationship. Okay, so what we have learned today, the total internal reflection is not the only condition required for guidance. You need to think about some other condition, and because of that condition, that second condition, the concept of guided mode. Mode, have you heard, no? That guided mode, that mode concept comes, that all the theta I value will not be accepted. A certain theta I, discrete values of theta I will find, those discrete values of theta I can give this type of condition. And then each of these theta I actually represent a guided mode. So next thing is that we'll be trying to solve that thing. So in this method, I'll be discussing just to visualize. Ultimately, when you design a waveguide, you design a device, you directly actually solve Maxwell's equation using your simulation software. That is very expensive and time consuming. And rather, if you just simulate and get results, you don't get a feeling that, and you will not, you have to do everything, all this expensive and long time consuming simulation you need to come to get a conclusion that whether that is guiding or not. But we'll try to get some kind of analytical, semi-analytical approach to get an initial guess whether the material system can give you a guidance or not. If it is guiding at all, then how many modes will be there, number of modes, what is the difference between modes, all those type of concept we will be getting very clear picture if we just discuss this 1D optical waveguide in this ray picture. So that will be continued in the next class. So I stop here. If you have any question, then you just ask me now. Otherwise, we'll continue. Yeah, go ahead.
Sir, can you please discuss what exactly happens at theta equal to theta c? That is the light passing through the interface of these two medium.
Yeah. So actually, we'll say that actually theta equal to theta c. Okay. So for example, we go there, this here. This expression. So if theta equal to theta c, what is the value of delta?
Infinity.
Aha. So you see at theta equal to theta equal to theta c, delta equal to infinity. That means your wave will be penetrating in the second medium, and that will exist up to the infinity. That means it will be reflected back. It will be total internal reflection will occur, but the penetration is also infinity, theoretically. So that means you need the upper cladding infinitely extended. Then you can see that total internal reflection. So you need that type of realization. So exponential decaying, but penetration is there. So basically, that is actually some kind of situation you want to avoid. That's why when we say that total internal reflection, we don't say that exactly critical angle. We say that if incident angle is greater than critical angle, that always we maintain. Exactly at critical, that is actually some kind of singular point, right? So that's some kind of non-ideal situation, non-practical situation. So your evanescent field will be there, but that evanescent field will be infinitely extended theoretically. So that situation is not really giving you a guided mode. But if you just consider slightly greater than this one, then you can get some kind of situation that is not infinite, some value will be there. I suggest you to take one more assignment. Just try to plot as a function of theta I, what is the value of this delta? So where you can start from theta c.
That is already there, sir.
Huh?
That is already there.
So that is there. That means it will be something like this, right? So you have to plot this function. So at theta I equal to theta c, your penetration depth is infinity. But theoretically, you supposed to get total internal reflection. Practically, to get that, you need infinitely extended cladding region. That is not possible. So you actually don't get real essence of total internal reflection at theta equal to theta c. So field will be there in the second medium. And whatever Snell's law you are getting, that Snell's law, that transverse direction, longitudinal direction, the field is there, but second medium also existing. So my question was that if you have a medium, so maybe you can go there. Suppose you have a medium, and if it is just something like that coming as a critical angle. So I say that this is a 90 degree, it is propagating like this, theta t equal to 90 degree, if theta c. So light will be grazing like that. But at the same time, we cannot rule out that field will not be existing in the second medium. Right? So it is propagating in that direction. So you cannot really imagine that only interface can guide at theta equal to theta c. That cannot be a guide actually. So you need actually something theta I greater than theta c, so that this field, this evanescent field, that should be actually decaying in nature. That should be slowly decaying in nature. Very fast it should be decaying, so that you can design your waveguide effectively, practically. If it is extended infinitely, so you have to leave at least infinite material medium, so that you can say that, okay, it's as if like a wave is propagating in the, as like a plane wave, like that direction. At the same time, that thing, whatever will be there, that continuous, and at the same time we see that this is coming like this, reflected wave. So it is something, it is not really feasible solution, exactly theta equal to theta c. So one thing we should keep in mind that normally all this Maxwell's equation, and it is a differential equation, right? So differential equation, if you solve, you can get huge number of solutions. Any equation you can find, okay, that can have some kind of solution. But thing is that some solutions, you have to see whether that is practical or not, called feasible solution. You can have multiple solutions, but again, there are some feasible solutions which can actually give you practical device thing. Okay, so this theta equal to theta c is not really a practical thing. Is that a bit clear? Rishabh?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any other question? If not, I just stop.